Spring is here, and football teams all across the country are starting into spring football practices, and Millersville University is no different. I'm joined by Millersville football head coach Greg Colby. And coach, spring football has really become popular all across the country. It's almost like a season of its own now.
Yeah, you watch some of these schools and they'll get 30, 40, 50, 70,000 people come to their scrimmages. So we have about 10 or 15 that come to ours, but no, it's there's such a huge interest in college sports in general and football specifically nowadays, especially on the internet and looking at all the videos you can see about the different schools and their programs that it's a good thing. It's fun, and it gets interest going a little bit early, and our guys like it because they see that interest out there, and they look at other schools and see what other people are doing, and so it's kind of a fun time of year.
Yeah, it really feeds some hunger that fans have for the game that they wouldn't usually get until August. But
Exactly.
what do you try to get out of the spring season as a coach?
A couple things. Number one, we want to really focus on fundamentals. We go back and look at the previous season and see what things in general we need to work on from a fundamental standpoint. We try to focus on those things. Two, we want to teach any new schemes or things that we've put into the offensive or defensive or kicking game, which is not a lot, but there are some things that we try to do. So we work on those in the spring. It's kind of a time to work out the kinks in those areas and lay a groundwork framework for the players for the fall. And three, it's to find out where our players are after the winter program, and see what they need to work on, and see what our initial depth chart's going to look like going into fall camp.
Well, Coach, you talk about that depth chart. I look at the skill positions, very talented group at wide receiver, running back, a lot of explosiveness there. Talk a little bit about those positions and where you see them in the spring.
Well, as you said, I mean, I don't want to use the word loaded, but I think we've got a lot of talent at those two positions, running back and wide receiver on offense. Safety on defense, we've got several, very experienced players coming back. Cornerback, we're a little bit thin, although we're working some guys at that position that I think are gonna be pretty good players for us. So, but on offense, we've got Matt Hagenreiter, who redshirted last year, is going to be back and be out, and Matt's playing as well as he has since he's been here. He's going to be, I think, a force out there. Dominic Sanders, who will be in his third year of playing, I think Dominic's going to come into his own. He had kind of a quiet year last year, although it wasn't bad. And he's shown some improvement in the offseason, had a good offseason in the weight room, and is stronger. And I really see some good things from him. Brian Collins, who started for us as a freshman. Brian is working at receiver. He's also working at some running back for us now, because that's what he was originally before he moved into wideout last fall. And he's got some skills there. He's got some speed and quickness there. And Mike Jones, who again was hurt last year halfway through the season, but Mike, we're actually working at both wideout and a running back too, moving him back and forth and try to take advantage of his pass catching skills as well as his running ability. So, the Marquise White, who's out this spring, but Marquise again started for us at running back after Mike got hurt. So looking forward to having him back in the fall. So I think we're going to have some good talent at those positions, and I think it's going to help us be a better football team.
Well, Coach, you can have those outstanding skill players, but you have to have somebody to get them the ball.
Exactly.
Going into the spring, you have to assume that Sean Quarterman, who showed some flashes in the fall as a freshman, is probably right at the top of the depth chart there. But you also went out and recruited a bunch of quarterbacks.
Right.
So where do you feel with Sean right now, and then also with the incoming players?
Well, Sean's ahead of where he was in the fall. Danny Miller, who started for us all last fall, I'd like to get Danny back over to defense. But he won't let me because he keeps a hold of that starting position right now, and he's still working on offense. We're actually going to work him a little bit on defense this spring to get him prepared in the event that we do have somebody who can take over at that position for him. And I keep trying to figure out a way to get him out of there, and he keeps getting better and keeps doing a great job running the team. So we have both them. But Sean has shown some improvement. He's still raw. He still has a lot of work to do on his fundamentals. But he's learning the system, and he's getting more technique sound out there. So I see good things from him. Of course, we've got a pretty good group of quarterbacks coming in too, and it's going to be great competition in the fall when we show up in August and to see who ends up at that position.
Well, Coach, maybe elaborate a little bit more on that recruiting class. We've seen the names trickling in here, and really a number of quarterbacks. We've seen, I think, 5 offensive linemen, some specialists, linebackers, really heavy in those areas. Where do you see the strengths of this team?
Well, we went out and we said we've got to find a couple more quarterbacks because that position worried us, from a depth standpoint. and which we did, like you say, we've got 5 right now coming in. And an offensive line, which is a concern every year. And again, we made a focus on that position, and we're still working on it. We're not done with offensive linemen. Hopefully, we'll have another one here in the next 2-3 weeks that we'll be able to announce that we have coming in. So, that's why we're top heavy in those 2 positions. And then we try to fill in the best athletes we can get at the other positions. Linebacker is always a position where there's a lot of good players out there, and we usually end up getting a pretty good handful of them because they can play other positions. They can play special teams as well. So again, we pretty much are finished. We've got, I think, 37 or 38 commits right now. There may be 1 or 2 more of that. That number fluctuates, but it's a good class. I think it's one of our bigger classes that we've had. And I'm looking forward to getting them here in the fall and getting them indoctrinated and seeing how they can help us.
You talked a little bit about the defense and those linebackers. A pretty solid group coming back on the defensive side of the ball in their second year under defensive coordinator Ron Rankin, with him calling the plays. Where do you see the defense right now?
Well, again, they made great strides last year, and they improved in two-thirds or more of the statistical categories that you look at. And it showed on the field too. I think we had improved play, and I think we'll continue to have that this year. I think we're going to be pretty solid up front. We've got some pretty good depth at the defensive line position, and like you say, the linebacker position. We had a couple guys there who have been playing now for 2 or 3 years. Pat Maloney's one. Again, Pat got dinged up a couple years ago, and he had an okay year last year. But I think he's going to be back full strength this year. Gilbert Ramos, who has been a regular force, and Gilbert's showing some good signs this spring. Jordan Rigby, who played somewhat part-time for us last year. Now Jordan should get more playing time as we come into the fall season. And we've got a couple young guys who are, we'll see how they come along, and they should help us. So again, I think it's going to be an area that we can look at and say, yeah, we're going to be pretty solid there. Don't know how good we'll be there, but we're going to be solid and be able to play pretty sound defense, especially up front.
Well, the spring practice is ongoing right now. You can check out the full schedule at millersvilleathletics.com on the football page. And, of course, the spring game to wrap things up at the end of April. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.